Hi, my name is Dr. Abir Haddad. I'm the founder of the Institute for Legal Transformation, and I'm an adjunct professor at the University of Cologne in the legal department. And I'm an advisor to the UN Climate Change Secretary. And I'm happy to be here with you at the Voices of the Future. And something I'm passionate about, it sounds boring, but I'm really, really passionate about law.
Abir, it's a real privilege to have you here, all the way from Germany. And I saw your work. I met you at the Museum of the Future, at the Future Forum, and was taken in by the issue of law and the issue of governance and the issue of jurisdiction, the issue of ethics, and all of those key components are becoming more and more relevant and front and center in the work and the business that we are doing today. So it is extremely relevant what you're doing, and we'll certainly dive deep into that. But before we go deep into the depths of law and technology and blockchain and stuff like that, which you're so passionate about, let's talk about little Abir. What shaped you? What guided you? Were you a naughty child? Were you a well-behaved, super smart, AAA person?
Oh, I am all of this, to be honest.
Okay.
So I was a very, very well-behaved, only A+ marks child till puberty hits. And then I was completely the opposite. Everything bad you can imagine, oh, I did. So I turned out the completely opposite. I rebelled. I rebelled against my teachers, parents, everything, society, everything, because I was so smart. I very much managed to rebel very well and get through with it. Like I got through with it, and I somehow managed to get through school and then study and do the career I just did. But I had a phase where didn't seem to turn out like this. So I tried out everything, let's say, yeah.
So tell us about how you went through your whole education process and ended up with a PhD and a doctorate in law or whatever else that you did as a part of your education.
So I was born in Iraq, in Baghdad, and I did my primary school there, and then we immigrated to Germany. And in Germany, normally it's really hard at the time when we came to Germany. It was really hard to catch up, like to get into a normal, like a high-level school, and then to get through the educational system, because the educational system was not made for foreigners. And somehow, with a lot of luck, I consider myself very lucky that I got really nice teachers. So I was very eager and curious to learn this new language and to learn how they live, how they learn, and what they're able to teach me. So kind of I managed to get through school very, very well at the beginning, as I said, till puberty hits, and then was one of the best students after 1.5 years in Germany even. And then eventually I managed to do my A-level a little bit late because I had a break. I had a break in school, so there were a gap of 1 or 2 years I didn't went to school. And then I finished my A-level, and then I had pretty good marks, so I could go to law school. And in our case, numerus clausus, which means only, from a certain grade you can study law. So I did that, and then you need to have really belong to the 1% of the graduates to be able to do a PhD, which then I did. Yeah, because for the sake of it, because I loved it so much. I loved what I was taught, and I was pretty good in certain things, and other things that I sucked, like sports or whatever, I sucked. But in other things I was great. And then law, I loved it because just the way of thinking, the way of how things work together, how words can create a world and govern society. And I had always this, when I was little, I thought always, I want to change the laws because I feel they're so unfair to me and my people and my community. And I wanted always to work in an international organization like the UN, because I thought, this is not fair what's happening there. I need to change it. So I need to get to myself into a position where I can kind of be in the right place to make some change happen. And this I decided when I was already 11. So going back to the little Abir, is the little Abir who was born in Iraq, in Baghdad, in the war, fleeing from home, within the country and then outside of the country, made up my mind to be exactly where I am now, so I can do the work I do now, because I believe law is a tool to make people's life better. And this is what I'm aiming for, basically.
Okay, sounds amazing. So, was being an immigrant and the whole, the energy that immigrants come with, because you burnt your boats and you're moving forward, and so many great entrepreneurs and so many great innovators and so on, actually immigrants. Was that one of the energies that flowed inside you to excel and succeed? Because you said, this is my new home, and the only way for me is forward.
Absolutely. There's no way back home to what my parents consider home. This is my new home. And in order to succeed here or to get along, I need to be 10 times better than everyone around me. So there's the thing about being an immigrant, especially an Arab immigrant, or coming from a Muslim or whatever Arab community in a European country. It's you have two challenges. Society won't accept you as one of them and won't give you the opportunities you deserve, because you can't, you don't, have a different name, you have a different culture, you speak differently, whatever, which I don't like. I don't have any accent in German, so it's my mother tongue. But because you are not biologically indigenous, you have automatically less opportunities and you get excluded, and you don't have the network you others have, like even in school, even during your studies, job opportunities or whatever. You need to start from scratch, everything. So it's kind of you have a lack of opportunities. You have kind of weight you need to carry. On the other hand, you have the culture you're born in. Parents who are really afraid of you losing your culture, you becoming very bad, bad girl or whatever. So they will try to pull you back all the time. No, don't go there, reduce whatever, don't travel. Girls, don't do that. Girls, don't wear. Like, in my case, it's like my parents very much pushed me to study and everything, but still in a very traditional way. So you have two challenges. One is breaking out of the traditional box of your, home culture, which was brought with your parents to the new culture you're in, and the new culture which wouldn't let you live the potential you have because you don't belong. So you can imagine how much resilience you need to have, and how much energy you need to put, and how much you need to really believe in yourself to fight against this odds and these odds to get to where you want to be and beyond even. And should I tell you why I did it?
Please do.
Because I wanted to be the role model for all the girls and boys who came after me. Mm-hmm. So I came to Germany many years ago, and there are really less chances and everything. You need to work very hard. So I thought 10 years later, many young people will come and they don't have any role models, because I had no role models I could look up to, like with my history, with my language, or even with curly hair, no one, or women, especially women, no way. So I had no role models I can learn from. And because I suffered so much, I thought I want to be the role model others can learn from. And that's why I mentor a lot in Germany, and I give a lot of talks. I build a lot of networks there just for immigrants to gather and to learn from each other. And so I share, as much as I can to not let them down like I felt I was let down.
Indeed. So fast forward, because this is Voices of the Future, so we need to talk about the future, and there are elements of technology and and society and humanity that we will discuss. My thesis, Abir, is that the more technological the world becomes, and the more digital the world becomes, because it will be, because everything will be a million times faster and a million times cheaper. But anything and everything that cannot be digitized, like love, harmony, ethics, trust, spirit, soul, imagination, creativity, common sense, critical thinking, and I can go on. Those things that cannot be digitized will be a million times more valuable. And so we need to be able to find ways to concentrate within those kinds of skills as opposed to the technology, because technology will always be there, enable, enhance, and develop us. But the humanity is where I think one of the critical elements are. What are your thoughts as you started now graduating and working and so on, in terms of looking at your more human side and developing that while you were developing your career?
So many years ago, I decided when in a perfect world, I would be very, very wealthy right now, and I would be one of the richest women on earth, because the currency we will have is not money, it's energy. So in the perfect utopian world, I would create the currency we exchange with each other is pure loving energy. Not only love, but energy. And since I have so much energy and so much loving energy and so much love, I consider myself to be so wealthy.
Well done. And that's amazing.
So this is, even if we're not living in this perfect world, I still in this world live up to being wealthy of good energy, loving energy, healing energy, giving love and receiving love. And from this, my creativity nourishes. From this, my approaches and my boldness, I would say, in trying things out, especially as a lawyer, it's kind of in my field is a no-go to do what I do, but I still do because I very, very much believe in creating the future I want to live in and I want my children to live in. I spend a lot of time in deserts, for example. I spend time with indigenous people. I go to the desert and just, take care of sheep and goats, just to calm down my mind and to connect with nature and to always go back to the source of energy, to go back to the source of me being just human, nothing else. And I spend time with those people who don't understand what a PhD is, who don't understand that I work with governments, or who don't understand that I chill with ministers. So they don't care even. It's just like I'm the silly Abir who sleeps on the mountain. That's it. And this reminds me always of who I am. And I feel like I would wish that more people remind themselves of who they are and who they are as an energy being also, despite the how rich they are, which degrees they have, and with our definition of wealth.
Okay, so let's get to more serious stuff. Tell us about the Institute of Legal Transformation. What does that do, and how is it making a difference in saving the world?
So the Institute for Legal Transformation is a think tank, basically, and the consultancy. We aim to change the way lawyers thinking about law, the way we approach regulation, and the way we define law and regulation. So at some point, and this is my goal in 10 years, it will be taught in universities. I know we're already starting with the teaching students already in Germany on legal transformation, and then how they need to rethink what they learned at university the classical way. So how does it make a difference in providing education and providing trainings and consultancy? So we work when it comes to education with universities and with educational institutions like judicial institutions. We train judges and prosecutors and lawyers, always on the crossroad of technology, sustainability, and law, and innovative thinking. We work with governments, different governments in the region and in Europe, on regulation and different approach. So we developed a methodology which we call it 7 steps to legal transformation, and kind of which defines itself by being very interdisciplinary. We use classical legal methodologies like comparative law, legal philosophy, legal history, legal theory. And out of that, and we work with foresight methodology. So we combine foresight methodology and comparative law, but basically to get out a very agile approach to regulation and to change the mindsets of lawyers and regulators and decision makers when it comes to law.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, I am quite familiar with some of the work that you're doing because here in Dubai, I was involved at one stage with the future courts that were set up here. Because courts and regulation and governance and all of them always lags behind technology and the speed of technology. So therefore, there are lots of things around us which are pre-legal. I call them pre-legal, not illegal. So for example, there's a building right next door to the Emirates Towers, which is a 3D printed building. When it was created, and even now, there are no regulations on 3D printed buildings, not really. Blockchain, when it first started out, everything was a big, massive hype, and they created a structure here, and blockchain association, blah, blah. But really, it wasn't legal. So how do you differentiate between illegal, pre-legal, and legal?
This is a very interesting question. So in legal terms, we call it legal gray zones. What you call pre-legal is legal gray zones, which is not illegal because it is not defined as illegal or prohibited, but it is not regulated in a way that it goes in alignment with the regulation. So we call them legal gray zones. And as you just mentioned, technology is developing in a very fast pace, and exponential technology is even faster. And this is not even the problem, because as long as you mentioned, blockchain was just, behind the scenes, some tech geeks were like playing around, that's fine. But as soon as it got adopted by the people, as soon as people started buying Bitcoins, Ethereum, whatever,
it became
creating
real.
wallets. Excuse me?
It became real.
It became real, and it became adopted by the society. It influenced the society. So it was easily to hack your wallet and steal your steal your whatever you have, your NFTs or your coins. It was easy to transfer NFTs forth and back and pretend to sell houses or whatever. So people started using this technology as an alternative to the real world they have, which is regulated, right? Which is legal. So they started moving in these gray zones, which is not illegal, but just not regulated. So the same with artificial intelligence or large language models we have. Since 1966, language models are developed and also exponential, but it didn't affect our society. Only since November 2022, when ChatGPT was released, then suddenly 1 million followers in 5 days, users in 5 days. So it started affecting society, and then regulation was kind of, okay, how do we going to deal with that? And this is what we tackle. We know the trends. This is where foresight comes in. We know that we work with futures, so we know the trends, we analyze the trends, we know what might be coming, can be adopted from society. And then with this methodology, we develop approaches on how to react to these adaptation of society. So technology is fine in itself. The problem of governments or regulation or law or legal or illegal is when it gets adopted by society, affects the people in the society, and this needs to be protected by national states or governments. If we say that governments have the obligation to protect these people.
So very recently in Hollywood, there was a 6-month strike for all the writers and the copywriters and the creatives and so on. I'm writing a book, and you're going to be part of that book. And one of the things that we are doing is taking all of the, when we speak for about 30 minutes, we'll have 30,000 words. So 30,000 words times 100 people, that's 3 million words that go into a large language model, and we've actually created a bot. So that bot, we can actually ask it a question. So what does this book say about pre-legal? What does this book say about ethics and so on? And it will actually search and find it and identify you, for example, speaking about it. So we're actually training it in terms of what is authentic and original information. What some of the big people have done, the big organizations, the media organizations and so on, is taken all of, I don't know, Tom Cruise's work and all of the copywriters' work and all of the Morgan Freeman's voice and whatever it is, they've trained their models. And effectively, they have stolen their IP, they've stolen their authenticity, they've stolen all of that, and there is no recourse. And they had to now figure out something to move forward. But by now, it's all trained, it's all gone. Everything, because all the large language models have been trained substantially. So, I mean, Google, for example, if I ask Google, I say, can I have all my data back? And they'll say, yeah, sure, you can have all your data back, because the algorithm's already been trained and they've already got all my input. So how do you, as a legal expert, a legal specialist, bring about that layer, that filter, where these type of things, before we get completely screwed, these are controlled? Where are the guardrails?
Yeah, this is a big questions. I can't answer myself just easily, because for this you need international cooperation, because these technologies are not national issues anymore. So normally we have regulation on a national base, and we have international on, and in certain things we need to not regulate but agree on an international basis, which is international treaties. And this is not regulation, this is not really law, it's just treaties we agree on to not to obey or not to obey. Okay, so since technology is, even if OpenAI is in Silicon Valley or whatever in the US, but it influences here in Europe or here in Dubai or whatever. Even if you forbid or certain technologies or certain exposure somewhere in a country, somewhere in another country, a person can sit with one computer and can, develop whatever they want, and online it can be used by your people. So regulation on a national level is getting more and more complicated and more inefficient, let's say. For this, you will need international cooperation. So in UNESCO is particularly working on kind of creating guidelines and getting in countries to enter these agreements in order to kind of try to regulate large language models specifically. The other problem we do have is that especially these companies are lobbying a lot within the parliaments, within the regulatory authorities, in order to not be regulated in the way which just could, hinder them in continuing in the way they do. So when it comes to IP, to intellectual property, yes, this is an absolutely big issue. We have in different countries already different courts rulings, but even if you have a court ruling somewhere, it doesn't mean that it affects the company somehow, or it gets implemented. So this is the main problem we will have in the future. The more we go forward, the bigger the problem will be, which is not only regulation, but enforceability of regulation.
Sure.
Technology is creating kind of or these technologies are creating kind of a parallel, not world, I might say, but a space it's working in, which we can't physically control. So our enforcement tools as a country or as a government is administration, taxes, police, military. So how you gonna, again, if the company is sitting somewhere, okay, you can shut down OpenAI, 10 other open AIs will open, because the models, most of the models are already open source.
Yep.
So
it's a very interesting philosophical question, and I think we need to address that. But I'm a little bit skeptical, I would say, as far as being cynical when it comes to large corporations, because there are 10 companies who understood AI and they've taken the lead. There are another 50 companies who know how this thing works, and you can't really catch them. So these 50 to 100 companies, they're gone. They're so far ahead. So you and I, you're a smart person, but people like myself are the worker bees who are going to try and catch up. And by the time we catch up, they're already 10 years ahead. The problem also is hypercapitalism. They are commercial organizations, and they know how to make money, and they know how to make us addicted, and they know how to manipulate us and become, I don't know how much money Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg need, because they have more money than God. So it's got to the point where I think it's about something other than money, and it's about greed, control, hubris, etc., etc. And like you said rightly, there's something parallel running. They're literally creating a parallel universe, and they are now uncontrollable. So let me move forward from that to my real question. Sorry, that was just editorial from me. My real question now is that I call AI a weapon of mass destruction. It's a WMD, a big fat WMD. It is a massive, and I look at it as having similar characteristics as nuclear fission and nuclear weapons. It can explode, it can grow, and it can develop, and it can really blow up the world. Actually, it's much, much more dangerous than nuclear fission, because nuclear fission is managed and controlled, and it's a physical product. While generative AI can learn and grow and develop and grow and create own languages and stuff like that, and it can effectively go rogue. So my question now really is, what do we do now? Because we have not had a nuclear war since Hiroshima.
yeah.
So there, and the reason is there were non-proliferation treaties, like you spoke about. There were international organizations, and even then, even if it's imperfect, it's kept us away from a nuclear holocaust after that. While there is nothing controlling AI, nothing. I mean, it's all on the edges, and you try to write a treaty, you try to write a manifesto, and so on, but nobody really gives a shit. So what do we do? I mean, young, smart people like you need to work this thing out and tell us, what do we need to do to have these guardrails, to get this generative AI and stuff in some shape that it doesn't just run away?
So, okay, you have two approaches. One is to control what you call artificial intelligence, which is for me a little bit different than large language models only. And the other approach is to work on us humans. So to change our approach to these technologies. So one approach is to, and this is already followed by some governments, I already told you, and we work on developing these curriculum for students, like for school students and then for university students, and so teaching, okay, what is it? How do we deal with it? Where's the danger? Where you need to be careful? Because look, we had a lot of, even guns. I mean, in the US, guns are legal, right? Not in Germany. But we have a lot of dangerous tools around us. Okay. And it doesn't mean it kills us immediately. And this kind of doomsday scenario, I'm not very much into it. I'm more into, let's look how we can use it the best for humanity, and how we as humans, because we're the problem, not technology. We are the problem.
100%.
The way we use it against each other is the problem. Albert Einstein developed his Relativitätstheory, relativity theory, okay,
yes. Yeah.
for completely different purposes, right? But he enabled an atomic bomb which killed, I don't know how many people in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right? And this was the worst for him because he was the most pacifist on earth, right? So he tried to do really something good for humanity, but it turned, why? Because those who had these information used it in the wrong way, and this is so human. So, and Albert Einstein himself wrote to his daughter that he wants to create a bomb of love, basically, instead of an atomic bomb, because love is the most powerful energy in the world. So when we go back to that, to being human, to us, to our humanity, to what defines us as humans, and just like not be too scared from the doomsday scenario, and start thinking, okay, these technologies out there, just like other technologies, just like people were afraid of every technology came across, like the cars and whatever.
I get that, Abir. I mean, but I think for the very first time, and you're a technologist and stuff, and I'm a futurist myself. For the very first time, I think we have hit into something that can learn by itself, can grow by itself, can develop by itself, and accelerate at a rate which we cannot manage.
Definitely. Yeah. So, it is autonomous. At some point, it can become autonomous from us, but we're not there yet.
So we can. We are maybe 5 or 10 years. We are 5 or 10 years away, but there's nothing that I see at this moment in time. And the reason is that all of our institutions, World Bank, IMF, World Health Organization, UNHCR, whatever, all of these were created 80 years ago for a problem 80 years ago.
Exactly.
And yes, they're trying to improve and evolve, but effectively they are evolving, while the exponential world is going exponentially, and it's linear versus exponential. It's not connecting. So therefore,
absolutely,
none of our
same with regulation.
Yeah, and that's why I was very intrigued about your work and your body of work. Is I was so happy to see a different perspective, because the existing organizations to me are not relevant for the world that we're living in today. So the question is, will your Institute of Legal Transformation train judges in courts and stuff? Are you influencing education? What is its core thesis to literally help us to save the world, basically? Because you could potentially save the world. You can create that love bomb.
Thank you very much. Oh my gosh, I feel a lot of pressure now on my shoulders.
So you should. That's that.
I'm taking on this responsibility.
Absolutely. And that's the price of being. That's the price of being smart and in the right place. So it's all yours.
Thank you. So basically, we break it down to mindset shift. Seriously, we break it down to mindset shift. We work on the mindset shift within the legal field. Again, as you beautifully described, organizations were built 80 years ago for problems 80 years ago, right? Regulation, law, definition of law, how it works, the regulation process, everything was developed. It depends in Europe a few hundred years ago. Here in this region, not even 50 years ago, right? And was all adapted by the European concept, like from the civil code, from the French. Okay, so all the region here and even Far East, we adopted the Eurocentric concept. And it was built on certain mindset, approach, way of thinking. And we ignored everything else, everything indigenous. In India, they have amazing languages with amazing cultures, variety of legal approaches and like concepts of life and legality and illegality. The same here in the region. If you look at the Arab region, they like UAE had just 1985 a civil code. Since 1985, before it were completely different, right? And we forgot about all this and focused only about what we adopted from Europe. So my approach is just like go back to not only heritage we have, also to the richness of cultures, legal cultures we have all over the world. And this is why we use comparative law. We learn from indigenous people. We learn from, that's why we use legal history. So there are other concepts of law, regulation, interaction as a community and as a society with each other, which worked fine for thousands of years, right? Which might work in this context we will enter in this new world, let's say, if we get influenced by these technologies. So for this region specifically, we work with governments and we always go back to Islamic law, for example, because Islamic law tend to be very agile, very flexible to the civil law, contractual law, or whatever. Very agile, and it has concepts which would perfectly work for DAOs, for example, for decentralized autonomous organizations, which would perfectly replace the kind of marriage contracts we do have. Like we develop these things, for example, now in 2 days, we have a blockchain workshop with the government, and we take this futuristic developments and go back very far back in history and see, okay, what is indigenous and worked for many thousands years or hundreds of years and is agile, we can adopt and learn from. When it comes to sustainability, we look at indigenous people. How do indigenous people, now after the definition of the UN for sure, make 6% of population, Earth population, but yet protect 80% of biodiversity. So what is their norms? How do they define their norms and legality? So they don't have a legal system like we do have written. They don't care. They have a certain set of rules. What are these rules which allow them to live so sustainably with nature? So how can we adapt these norms into our new, our like current legal system and hopefully new legal system? And this is this transition and translation, this we work on, but basically we need first the right mindset in order to be able to adopt all these new thoughts or different thoughts, or to be open to think outside of the box.
Amazing. You know, Abir, you are so fascinating. We could be talking for hours, but we need to get onto a time machine. And this time machine is going, and this time machine, which has no laws and no structure, but we're going to project ourselves to your 100th birthday. And you're 100 years old, and what do you see around you? And what's making you happy? And what have you achieved?
Oh, okay. I live somewhere in Latin America in a community, in a very hippie community, where we have actually our own system, our own community with our own plants, and we grow our own food. And it's kind of, and I communicate only over Zoom because I have all the people I love around me, who are my kids, hopefully my grandkids, my friends, my spouse, and my family who still lives from my family, and people inspire me. Somehow I managed to travel back in time and get all the people I love and inspire me back into my 100th year and have them all around me, so I can ask them questions all day and discuss and have amazing discussions. And I do love a lot, which means I hug and we cuddle all day. So this is just me and with all the animals around, and we managed somehow to find a way to save biodiversity, so we could save a lot of animals which should be dead by now, and they live all with us. So I'm staying very small in my own world, because if I imagine what's happening in the outer world in my 100th birthday, then I hope we will have peace and people are some kind of figured out to find themselves, to love themselves. In order to love themselves, they will be able to love others. And then, we will have matriarchy, definitely. So women will rule, because women will then want to save the earth for their children, and they don't want to just have war just for the sake of having war.
What a beautiful answer. It's very difficult to follow, but I'll just make one final request is, if you were to leave a little message in a bottle, a one-liner, a little simple quote for your kids or your grandchildren to pick up in the sea, you throw the bottle into the ocean, what will that one-liner say?
Okay, dare to try, dare to fail, and dare to create.
And I thought you were going to say, and dare to love, genuinely.
Oh yeah, like this is a given. This is a given.
Absolutely. I mean, it's an absolute privilege and pleasure. You're absolutely delightful. You're so animated and energy. You're right. You are a ball of energy. So you are the nuclear energy that we have to be maintaining and controlling first. So absolutely. Thank you very much indeed for being on Voices of the Future. And we love your work. And I think this is going to be the beginning of many things together. Thank you very much indeed.